Today, very interesting bots news, an interview with a 2-time Emmy Award winner guest, and a big announcement about the Bots League. My name is Koen Schobbers, and this is Bots TV. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Bots TV, live from the headquarters of Bots in Haarlem, the Netherlands. Now, before we start, we like to mention that everything we're going to talk about is not financial advice. Make sure to do your own research. Today, I'm joined, of course, by Herbert. Herbert, how are you doing this week?
Hi, Koen. I'm in a great mood. Bitcoin shot up by about $4,000 today, just because Elon Musk took the trouble of putting the word Bitcoin in his Twitter profile. It's incredible that one person would have so much power. But, well, we all profit, don't we? So let's be happy.
Yeah, most likely. Let's see if also Tesla and SpaceX are going to put it in their treasuries. Yeah? Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe that's the
Let's
next step.
hope for the best. Yeah.
That's the next step. Of course, we're also joined by Adosa. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great today. Thank you for asking. And I'm really looking forward to this episode because we have some really cool guests today. And Koen will also announce the schedule in a few seconds. So if you have any questions regarding the topics of today, please let us know in the chat.
Yes, thank you, Adosa. And as you just mentioned, let's go through the schedule of today. And we have a great schedule. We're going to start with very interesting news because last week has been insane. And Adosa is going to tell us all about it. Then we're going to talk about the Bots Users section together with the COO of Bots, Hendrik. We're going to talk with Seth Shapiro, and he is the 2-time Emmy Award winner guest that we're going to talk to today. Then Bots Around the World, we're going to see about the situation in Sweden, and we're going to do that with Johan. More information about him later during this episode, and we're going to kick things off with the Bots League at the end of this second show of Bots TV. So again, thank you for being here. It's great to see you watching the live stream. Make sure to write a lot of questions in the chat so that Adosa can ask those questions to us, me and Herbert, as well as the guests. Now, let's go to Adosa for Bots News. Mm-hmm.
The saying Bitcoin goes to the moon might just become reality. Mr. Beast, a famous YouTuber, has bought digital space on board of a NASA-sponsored astrobotic lunar mission and wants to literally send $1 million in Bitcoin to the moon. Really funny though. So the next item is about Wall Street bets. Social platforms, Reddit and Twitter, sent stocks of GameStop, Nokia and BlackBerry much higher, which resulted in squeezing, actually, short sellers. The next subject is about Alphabet, who is the parent company of Google. Alphabet has announced that it will extend Project Loon, which is a division that is focused on providing internet services in remote areas across the world. The last topic is about Chamath Palihapitiya, who is an early Bitcoin investor who is potentially in the running for the position of California governor. He tweeted a link in his website stating a number of promises, including massive tax cuts, an increase for teacher salaries, an end of student loans, and a handout for new births. I just explained to you 4 news items of this episode, but there is a twist, and I'm really looking forward to see if Koen and Herbert know the twist. So, Koen and Herbert, let me see.
Yes, thank you, Adosa, for sharing those 4 news items. Now, Herbert, she just mentioned 4 news items of the past week. Yeah. There's a twist somewhere. Do you have any idea?
I wonder if it's in the story about Bitcoin going to the moon, because I believe you can't really send Bitcoin to the moon. You can send a computer there with a wallet inside, but if you keep your seed, you know, the 12 or 24 words that you can restore your wallet with, well, you still also have your Bitcoin on Earth. So I wonder if that story is really true.
Yeah, you can just have a second wallet, basically. One
yes,
on the moon.
It doesn't
and one
matter
on Earth.
if you send it to the moon, you also have it there.
Yeah. And what do you think about the Loon project? First of all, I actually didn't know that Google had a parent company called Alphabet, so I learned something new today.
Okay.
But also the Loon project. Do you have any idea what it is about and if it's true?
It's about giving internet to people who don't have any. It's about balloons circling around the Earth high up in the atmosphere. Well, I'm not completely sure. I thought it was going really well, but they also have competition from Elon Musk, who maybe is a recurring thing in this particular Bots TV. So I don't know. It's an interesting project, and what do you think of it?
Well, I believe that I've seen last week that Loon was basically they pulled out the plug. And they pulled out the plug because maybe the competition, like Elon Musk, is already starting with putting all these, I don't know how you call those, like the satellites. Basically, around the globe to provide internet for every human being. And it works. So maybe due to competition, they stopped the Loon network. And in the end, let's be real, right? The more people have access to internet, the more people have access to Google anyway, because many people are using Google nowadays.
That's true.
So
Google always wins.
Maybe that's a reason behind their choice of quitting Loon. So that was actually, I think, the twist in this story. However, there's also this very interesting news item about Wall Street bets, and it's been going insane the past, let's say 1.5 weeks. It started with GameStop, then Dogecoin. What do you think about what's happening?
I think it's very interesting. It's very important as well. It's about people trying to break the power of big hedge funds. The story's been all over the place, so I'm quite certain that that one is true.
Yeah, that one is definitely true. And I think it will have a big impact for the future as well. I think a couple of hedge funds learned their lessons.
Nobody dares going short anymore.
No,
it's
exactly.
dangerous.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I believe some of them lost a couple of millions. And also the app, I believe, what was it, Robinhood, had a lot of fire on Twitter as well, because they limited people to have basically access to those coins, to GameStop and Dogecoin. So
it's a complicated world.
It's a complicated world. It's a complicated situation as well, like in the financial industry at the moment, as well as the cryptocurrency industry. And Wall Street Bets is definitely moving this world. Now, Adosa, were we right with our twist?
Yes, it is true that Alphabet was indeed not extending its Project Loon. It was shutting it down. So, because there was so much competition and there was not enough money for it. So, yes, you were correct. Really good. Now, next part is about the bots users, where we will answer all of your questions about the app. Last episode we had so many questions that we couldn't answer them all, unfortunately, during the live stream. That's why we have a video of Hendrik from last episode to answer a couple of questions.
Hello, fantastic Bots clients. I hope you have a very nice episode of Bots TV today. I'm Hendrik, I'm working from home, and I will be answering some of the questions of Bots clients today. The first question we got is about raising the caps. Some of the caps of the bots were increased. We can only do that if we see that markets have enough liquidity. Then we can raise it. Then the question about Bob Says and Laura 5. It seems that they are not working for 100%. I can be very clear about that. They are working perfectly fine, but they not always trade with 100% of their volume. That's because they trade in multiple coins, and some of the coins have markets with enough liquidity, and some of the coins have markets with not enough liquidity. And when there is not enough liquidity, you can only trade with, let's say, 50% of the volume. So the bots are working fine, only not trading with always 100% of their volume. And then the last question is about leveraging. Will there be a leveraging bot on the bots platform? I can also be very clear about that. There will be no leveraging bot on the bots platform. We find it too risky. So these were the questions for today. I hope to see you soon, and let's go back to the studio.
Yes, thank you, Hendrik, first of all, for making the video and answering a couple of questions from last week as well. Make sure that if you have any remaining questions, put them in the chat. Herbert, the last basically question Hendrik answered was about leverage, bots using leverage, basically. Can you explain a little bit about what leverage is and why they are determined to not have it in the app just yet, at least?
Well, an example of leveraging is going short, shorting a stock or a coin. Like we had in the
Wall Street Bets
thing. So if you do that, you run the risk of the asset that you're shorting going much higher, and then you lose much more money than you put in. So you may put in $100 and you may lose 3,000. Well, that's a too big risk for many people to take, especially the lay people, where bots, as a very user-friendly app, is aiming towards.
Yeah, so they're aiming
towards. Wise decision to not expose people to that kind of risk.
They're basically aiming towards a very big group of people that might not have the knowledge about shorting and longing, of course, like leverage using both sides. Let's just hope that if maybe in the future bots are going to have any sort of leverage options, that they also have stop losses in place just in case it's going wrong. Let's go to Adosa.
Over 80 teams with more than 200 bots are competing for a prize pool of 250k in assets. Later this episode, we'll dive deeper into the competition with someone who knows the inside outs of the bots league. But first, our special guest. He is a 2-time Emmy winner, a professor at USC, a former governor of the Television Academy, and a 2-time member of the Executive Committee. Is there anything this man can't do? Please give it up for Seth Shapiro.
Welcome in the show, the Bots TV show. I'm very happy to have you. It's an honor to have you live in this show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
And well, as an introduction, I mean, you've been doing so much in this industry. Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on.
Well, I'm a musician originally as a kid, and I moved to LA 25 years ago because I became convinced that digital was going to fundamentally remake the media business, which, believe it or not, 25 years ago sounded really stupid to most people. But then as soon as I got to LA, the first browsers were starting. And so I've been really lucky and had a great run in games and site development and streaming video a lot. Obviously, recently, that's been the big area. And then in, I think, 2016, two good friends of mine, Michael Turpin and Brock Pierce, got me involved in blockchain. And I became a big believer in that relative to the media business. So, I spend, I guess, half my time in the traditional media world or the digital media world and the other half in the financial world.
Okay, Seth, and you mentioned blockchain technology that used to be the great promise of cryptocurrencies. Do you still think that's going to change the media industry, and how would that happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Hollywood tends to change really slowly and then super fast, which is, this year's been a great example of that. People like me were predicting the shift to streaming video as the dominant model for Hollywood for 2015, maybe 15 years, I guess. And everybody thought it was many people thought that was crazy, that the idea that the traditional television model, the subscription model, which of course you guys have with, as well with satellite and cable delivery of TV, the idea that would ever be displaced sounded very far-fetched to a lot of people until it didn't sound far-fetched and it was just reality. So this year, obviously, the 800-pound gorilla Disney, as I expected, switched the bulk of their business model to streaming video via Disney Plus, to complete with Netflix, which has a much higher valuation than a traditional media company. It unlocks a lot of shareholder value. And so now we're seeing one by one, the dominoes fall as every major media company needs to switch to a streaming video model.
And do you believe that blockchain will change that industry as well as the world around it, like the whole world?
I think it should. I think it should because the mechanics of media could be greatly served by distributed ledger technology. Just think about, I'll give you a couple examples. So the big streaming video services, for example, have, tons of shows on. And so I have friends that are production companies that have various shows they're on streaming services, and the particular streaming video service will come back and say, hey, we're renewing you. We're going to buy season 2 from you, and we're going to pay you X an episode. And the producers will say, great, how much, how we doing? What countries are we big in? Who likes us the best? And the streaming service will say, we can't tell you that. What? But the data is really hoarded, and data is gold, as you know. Yeah. So the notion that consumption patterns and viewing data and the ability to do predictive modeling as a producer or even as an agent or a manager to employ that kind of data is super powerful, and blockchain would make all of that possible. The data would be immutable. And so now it's sort of a control battle. Do the existing incumbents that control, the vast majority of distribution really want to share that data? And that has yet to be seen, but it would definitely be best for the vast majority of producers to have it so.
Okay. Now, as far as cryptocurrencies are concerned, you have various forces in the United States. You have a new chairman of the SEC who is pro-crypto. You have a new Treasury Secretary who is skeptical of crypto. Which way will it go, do you think, with cryptocurrency in the US?
Broadly speaking, I think the analogy that I was talking about before holds. Go back in time to the early 90s. Very few people in Hollywood believed that digital and the internet would disrupt their business models, which had been largely intact for many decades. But it's really hard to hold back technology it's a force multiplier, especially when it's at this kind of scale. The internet was just too efficient. It was really hard for people to hold it back. And so if you want to look at the digitization of media having unlocked a lot more choices and changed the fundamental construct of it, I think when the Fed and not just the Fed, but many other central banks and global marketplaces are printing money at such an incredible rate. The idea of digital money as a store of value in the case of Bitcoin, for reasons that which is that the supply is constrained and it can't be gamed, it can't be manipulated, on the one hand is extremely powerful. And we probably aren't going to talk about what we lived through the last year, but one of the fascinating things in the early days, and I was trading through this February, March, April, was that Bitcoin didn't really work as a hedge, but neither did gold and neither did silver. And when the market came back, obviously we went from $10,000 Bitcoin to $40,000 Bitcoin. So I think the remaining here would be my thesis. The remaining skeptics, institutional investors, the smart ones are all now holding digital currency. Every major the sovereign nation is looking at the idea of digital currency. Yep. So I think it's inevitable that we'll see more and more digital currencies take a larger and larger part of global market share.
Yeah, there's even municipalities and governments looking into putting a bit of their treasuries. Like I believe Miami, the governor of Miami, correct, I believe, is also looking into putting a bit of their treasuries into Bitcoin as a safe haven, right? Instead of gold, for example. Yeah.
Correct. And so I think that the talk in Miami is, which is a major city in South Florida here, is that at some point you may be able to pay your property taxes in Bitcoin, which would be a tremendous bull signal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been talking a lot about the innovation in the past 20, 25 years. Of course, we had the internet, which was a bubble for many people, and then it appeared to be not. It was one of the greatest innovations ever. Right? A lot of industries have been impacted by internet, and now we have cryptocurrencies. Do you actually think that when looking into cryptocurrencies as well as algorithms, that robots and algorithms can be very beneficial for many people in the world to trade in cryptocurrencies or at least be part of it?
Well, funnily enough, I met you guys through my good friend George Frerichs, who I work with a lot, who's in the Netherlands, and I'm in the Netherlands a lot. So I saw bots early, and I'm a big fan of the idea. I wish it were here, but I think you guys just got like the best news you could have possibly gotten in what we're living through, in the States today, like right now, which is Wall Street bets and this battle between traditional financial, between hedge fund, between, in this case, shorts and the average populace. And I don't think there's a better bull case for decentralized finance and bots and so forth than to see for the entire world, or anybody who wants to see it, just how the sausage is made, just how incredibly, well, corrupt is such a strong word, how incredibly
impactful, maybe impactful
is. So I mean, I spent a lot more time than I wanted to, frankly, this week explaining to people how the market mechanics of what happens when, so when Citron and Melvin shorted GME by 130%, they shorted it by more stock than it exists, and this group of ordinary people noticed that was a good trade to be on the other side of. It kind of ignited this national debate here in the States on, are the markets really fair? And I think that's a strong argument for why bots and decentralized finance do make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Creating an open, fair, transparent marketplace, it seems to me, is something that could really be facilitated by things like what you guys are doing.
And,
we like to ask our guests a prediction for the Bitcoin price. So can you tell us where you think Bitcoin will be in 11 months' time by the end of this year?
Yeah, so I'm part of a cryptocurrency hedge fund called Alphabet, which is based in London, and our guys are saying we're going north of 100K by the end of the year. My friend Michael Turpin, who's been doing this for a long time, has a thesis, and you can just kind of follow Michael on social. He's everywhere, but he has a thesis that Bitcoin trades seasonally, and that we're in, I don't know what he calls this, Bitcoin spring, I think, but that the price rises, and it's related to the halvening, which you guys probably understand, or you can explain it. But every period of time, the Bitcoin total supply is cut, and so there's mechanics to the Bitcoin algorithm that are seasonal, and so he believes we're in the middle of another bull run that may go lower at some point this year, but that we will crack 100,000. And there are models on the street and by others that take us to 250K. I mean, there are some people who take us to 1 million, and that sounds far-fetched, but right. I mean, I have friends who bought Bitcoin for under $1. You know the famous story about somebody bought 2 pizzas with Bitcoin, and I think today those pizzas would be worth
I wish I was there when it was only $1.
You wish you had sold that pizza.
Yeah, probably I would have bought a pizza as well. Yeah, but Seth, thank you for making time to join our show. It's been great talking to you, and we have a final question, which is, what would you recommend to invite for this show in 2 weeks? Do you have any name that pops up?
Yeah, I recommend my good friend Liam Robertson in London if you want to talk about Bitcoin. He's a brilliant guy who runs the hedge fund that I'm associated with, so I can put you in touch with him. Well, that sounds great. Thank you. So we're going to maybe talk with Leo next. Seth, again, thank you for your time. It's been amazing. Thank you for sharing your knowledge as well. For everyone that is watching, make sure to follow Seth online, probably on Twitter and any other social media channel, am I right? You can be found everywhere as well. Yeah, I'm a Seth Shapiro TV on Twitter, but you can find me on Facebook as Seth Shapiro, and Instagram. I'm around, so please reach out, say hi. Sure. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. Let's go to Adosa for a little recap of what we've just been talking about.
So normally in this part we would have some questions, but we haven't had any questions from the audience. So next up I will just talk about bots around the world, our next topic. We'll be talking about a country that is famous because of its meatballs, its modern design, and the music group ABBA. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Our next guest is from Sweden. If you have any questions about the current crypto landscape in Sweden, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And let's now introduce our new guest. Please welcome the owner of Bodhi, Johan Wendner.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Adosa, Johan, you're sitting here. Thank you for popping by here in the studio in Haarlem. You're living in the Netherlands, but originally you're from Sweden, right?
That's right.
So Bodhi, let's start with that. As Adosa just mentioned, you have your business Bodhi, and then we'll go into cryptocurrency. You started Bodhi. What is it and how does it work?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Bodhi is a Swedish honey producer we are aiming to become the most sustainable, bee-conscious honey brand in the world, and that's kind of our mission. We focus mainly on making and creating the best environment for the bees. And
they need that, don't they?
They do need
endangered.
that. They are endangered, and we really need them because they are responsible for 80% of the pollination of the crops that we eat. And they also create a magical product with incredible health benefits, which is honey. So the whole idea with Bodhi is we plant trees for each jar that is being bought, but we also ask from our customers to give back to the bees. So each customer gets a pack of flower seeds to plant it in their garden to give back to the bees. And a fun
Can we just pay them in Bitcoin?
We wish. Maybe that's the next step. We are actually looking into putting a Bitcoin on our treasury to become kind of a micro strategy.
And see your shares soar.
Exactly.
Yeah, by 300-something% as well. That would be nice. But you're not public yet, right?
Not yet. No.
Maybe in the future. But Bodhi is relatively young. You've been in the crypto industry for a much longer time. Can you tell us about when did you get into the crypto industry and also how did you get into this industry?
So the reason why I went into the crypto industry is I was very angry over how 2008 crash put a lot of disadvantaged people in hard position, and the rich got richer. And I listened to a podcast with a legend in the crypto space. His name is Andreas Antonopoulos. Yeah. And what he said really resonated with me. And I tried to buy Bitcoin at 2013, but it was too hard. The user experience was not there and was too much of a risk, I thought. But I got around it around 2016, and then I was just sold. I started reading and listening to everything I could get my hands on, and on that road it went.
And how about Sweden itself? Is Sweden a crypto-friendly country?
I would say it's fairly crypto-friendly. We are very internet savvy and digital savvy. Yeah. Many people do their banking just from their cell phone. That's normalized. And the Swedish central bank is at the moment already creating their own digital bank or their own digital currency based on blockchain. So we are moving in the right direction. I would also say that the media is not really portraying Bitcoin and the crypto space in a fair view, because the only time they report on Bitcoin is when the price goes up, Bitcoin is a bubble, and then when it crashes, Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin is a bubble, Bitcoin is dead. And that leaves a lot of people buying into the hype when it's going up and selling when it's going down, which is the opposite of what you actually should do.
Everybody is worse off.
Yes, so a lot of people have lost money, especially during the 2017. And have kind of swore off crypto and saying that it's a scam, I won't touch it again.
It's the fear. The fear entered after they bought high, it went down.
Exactly, because nobody
didn't trust it.
No, nobody likes losing money. But nobody can say that this crypto wave is going away.
And if you do buy crypto right now, do you have to jump through the same hoops as you do in Holland, like know your customer rules and all that,
so
anti-money laundering things?
Yes, there are KYC and AML requirements on all the exchanges that operate within Sweden.
And do you think that's a good thing or bad?
I do think it's a good thing. I think in some part we need to know who we are interacting with in order to kind of get rid of the illicit use, but too much overreach is also a bad thing. So private wallets or self-hosting wallets should stay that way. You don't need KYC and AML for self-hosting wallets. But if you want to, the on and off ramps, it makes sense that they should be regulated.
Yeah, I think like wallets and KYC is always a very interesting topic because a couple of exchanges like Bybit, for example, that you don't need any KYC at all. But if you want to register at Binance, you actually do need to have KYC and upload details from yourself. Now we have one of the viewers, one of you asking a question. So let's go to Adosa and let's see what the question is about.
Yes, there is a question. What does he think, or Johan, what does Johan thinks about Manuka honey? Worth the extra money, or is it good marketing?
Manuka honey. Do you know what it is, Johan?
Yes, I do know what it is. Manuka honey is really high in MGO value. It has a high MGO value, which is antibacterial properties. But basically all raw honey has these properties. So if you want good honey, buy raw cold treated honey, and you get the same health properties as Manuka. Manuka is a great honey, but even greater marketing.
Yeah, and of course not as great as Bodhi.
Nothing is as great as Bodhi.
Exactly, nothing can beat Bodhi. Hey, you just spoke about user experience. I just mentioned a couple of platforms. In the past, like 2013, you mentioned the user experience was so bad that you eventually didn't bought into Bitcoin, which is pretty unfortunate, let's be honest. Nowadays, however, platforms are improved, but maybe still a little bit difficult for some people. What do you think about the user experience nowadays for people?
It's getting way better. The more serious players that coming in, understanding that they need to cater to a wider public that maybe are not coders or developers or Bitcoin native or crypto native. There are a lot of apps, a lot of solutions, making it really easy to get exposure to this, to these asset classes. But I would recommend getting real exposure by buying the actual underlying asset, like buying Bitcoin and self-custody, then just buying, for instance, getting exposure through a tracker of the actual asset.
And speaking of Sweden, can you pay with Bitcoin in any stores in Sweden?
Some stores, most of the transactions being made, we are a cashless society. So most of transactions being made in Sweden are made with digital payments. But at the moment, there are not that many vendors that accept Bitcoin. There will be more, especially now when PayPal and those kind of players are coming into the market. I would maybe say I would not want to spend my Bitcoin on no,
why would you? Yeah.
I'm a hodler, so I hold my Bitcoin. I stack sats, which means that I keep buying more and more because it has a finite amount, which cash doesn't, or fiat cash doesn't. So when you have a currency that slowly is being debased and devalued over time versus a asset that holds its value or maybe increase, I would use cash to buy my everyday goods, and I would use Bitcoin as a store of value.
Sure.
Yeah, Bitcoin is basically digital gold, right? That's what some people make of Bitcoin.
Yes, I would say that Bitcoin is an incredible engineering phenomenon with an amazing network effect, and it's basically programmable digital gold. And that's unheard of. It's an innovation that will change the world.
And then as a second last question, you mentioned that banks are currently working on probably generating or building stable coins for the economy. Now, I have a very interesting question about this specific topic. However, I won't ask it because I actually use this as a bridge to tax, because of course banks, governments have to do with tax as well. Yep. Now in the Netherlands, tax is pretty well regulated also for investing in cryptocurrencies or any other stocks. Now, how is that regulated in Sweden?
So that's a good question. The tax in Sweden, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not. It was a long time since I was in Sweden. I've never sold Bitcoin, so I have never paid actual tax just yet. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the same profit tax that you have on stocks. That's the same that is for Bitcoin and crypto assets.
So it's like
25-30%, which is pretty high, but Sweden is known to have very, very high taxes.
Yes.
Okay, now it's time for you to give us your prediction. Where do you think Bitcoin will be in by the end of this year? What will the value be in dollars?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Very good.
Yeah, with the risk of falling victim for my own confirmation bias, I am a very, very big fan of a Plan B and his stock to flow model.
Which is a very bullish model.
It's very, very bullish, and I am very bullish. Just looking how the network is growing. So I would say it's not... Yeah, maybe around 100... somewhere around 100 to 300,000, it will top off in the end of 2021. Then you will have a correction where everybody say Bitcoin is dead, and then the news cycle will continue.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's a great prediction. Let's see if that happens to be true at the end of this year. So we'll keep our eye on it because we have a nice schedule with all the names and all the predictions. So, Johan, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day as well to be here live in the episode of Bots TV. It's been a pleasure. You're working and living in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands.
That's right.
We will definitely be in touch and hopefully see you soon again.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck with bots. I'm very excited about that app. It's making it easy for the little guy to trade crypto. So good luck.
Absolutely. That's the goal of Bots. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, the next part of this episode is going to be the Bots League, where we're going to talk with Arthur. But first, let's go to Adosa.
Yes, our final guest will be Arthur van der Pluim. He knows the competition inside out, as I mentioned before. He'll be here to answer all of your questions about the league. So, Koen, let's dive right into it.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Adosa. Well, Arthur is now sitting here next to us in the studio. Welcome, glad you're here. Happy you're here. How are you doing?
Very well. I mean, market's exploding, up, down, sideways, in circles. It's going crazy all over the place, so that's always good.
Yeah, and what's going to be crazy, hopefully, is the Bots League.
Yeah.
Right? So why, first of all, was the Bots League created?
So the Bots League was created to try to reach out to the algorithmic writer community a little bit more. So obviously the bots app needs two things. We need users, we need bot creators. And it's a symbiosis because everybody wins. The platform wins, the user wins, and the algorithmic trader wins. But to facilitate this huge community, we need to attract them. We need to show, and we also want to show the customers what is possible with algorithms. And this is just a really great way to interact with new bot creators that we can then put on the platform.
It's of course a way to attract some attention. Is this competition also a way to make bots even better?
Yeah, definitely it is, because competition is the reason for most improvements.
Yeah.
And the more you're going to pit these bot creators up against each other, they're going to see, hey, this team we have two teams that are already available in the app as well, and they're going to see the scores of the other teams. They're going to see
work harder.
Yeah, I mean, if they're lagging behind, they're going to push more and more on innovation, try to get the returns up while keeping the risk management stable.
Now, how many teams are actually participating?
So we've had about 80 applications for the teams. So it's going to run up to, about 200 to 300 bots. So it's going to be quite a big competition, and it's very, very cool to see a lot of new ideas, very different trading strategies as well.
But quite a big competition, but there's also quite a big prize pool, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the main prize is 2,500 euros in cash, which is nice. But obviously,
Why not in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Why not in Bitcoin? That's a good question. I think we'd have to
becomes
ask
way
legal.
more expensive that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it becomes a little bit riskier if you say we're gonna give you half a Bitcoin now and choose up to 100. That's gonna be.
This is the prize pool of the Bots League. He is here, first place.
Yeah.
2.5K. Not
2.5K,
bad.
not bad. But obviously, what's going to be a lot better is that along with the prize pool that we have for the top three, we're also going to work towards getting them enough assets under management so that when their bot exits the league and has officially won, that they can get assets under management, so they can immediately start trading. And also for them, this is how they earn. They need to have people who follow them, and this is a great way to make an entrance on the platform, because you can immediately see for 3 months how does the algorithm trade. As a user, you don't have direct exposure, but you can see how it goes, and then when it hits the top, I mean, who wouldn't want to have the winning bot in their portfolio?
In their portfolio, indeed. Now, very interesting. I really love the concept. I'm sure many viewers do as well. And one of the viewers has a question. Adoza.
Yes, so first of all, we talked about leverages used on shorts, but our viewers don't think that's correct. Can you explain, Arthur?
Yes, I can. So there's different, like obviously you can leverage both short positions and long positions, but I think that the big distinction here is if you look at what is a short, that's nothing more than you selling something that you have borrowed. But it also means that, let's say I short something at $5 and it goes up to 200. I'm going to have a massive percentage loss. So that creates a really big risk. On the other hand, you also this is short selling, and leverage trading is something you can do both short and long. And the reason that leverage trading is so risky is that, let's say we have an algorithm that's doing really well and has a maximum drawdown of 20%. And drawdown, that means is like how low has it gone historically whilst on its way up. And if you have a drawdown of 20%, in a normal position, that's fine, because, well, I put 100 euros, I go down 20%, I have a 20 euro hole in my account, but it's still 80 euros. If you add a 5-to-1 leverage, your maximum drawdown is no longer 20%, it's 100%.
You're liquidating.
And like that's it, your portfolio is gone. So obviously we want to be able to guard everybody against situations like this, because 20% drawdown in an algorithm isn't actually that much. So it's quite risky depending on the algorithm, because you can have an algorithm with a drawdown of 1 or 2% maximum a month. But you need to very specifically train your algorithm to do this. And as we want lots of different algorithms for different market conditions that trade differently, it's really not feasible to say, okay, we're going to give everybody leverage, or we're going to even offer it.
Now, in the bots league, there's many bots being developed, and they're going to battle against one another, of course, for the first place. But there's also some risk because the bots are relatively new. Can users invest in those bots during the bots league?
No, during the bots league, they can't invest in the bots themselves. So the bots that get registered for the bots league, they go into this very specific league. It might be bots that are already on the platform, so they will also be shown in the bots league. But being a contestant in the bots league doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be allowed on the platform. So it's not necessarily going to be the case that you have one of the bots from the bots league directly in the app.
Now, I think that's very important for people to know as well, because many people make use of the app, of course, all the users. Now, you can't make use of the bots league bots, let's say. Now, there's another question from the audience. So, Adosa, what's the question?
One of our viewers asked, what is the definition of a good bot? Is that only money gained?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because this competition is going to show you something. We're hoping to demonstrate something as well. Because there's two ways that you can make a trading algorithm. You can make a trading algorithm that does 1,000, 2,000, 3,000% gains in a month, which sounds very nice. However, that means that you're also throwing risk management overboard usually. And that also means that, yes, it might work in one of the 10 cases, but in the other 9 you go to flatline and you have nothing in your portfolio anymore.
Okay, so does that mean that the winner of the bots league is not necessarily the best one?
No, that's not what it means, because obviously we're going to have a close look at what the performance is of the algorithm, but also do they take at their volatility of the algorithm. Like if it goes up 200 and then down minus 80, then 400, then minus
like
70.
Dogecoin,
That's
basically.
not, like Dogecoin.
Then it could be a coincidence when it wins.
Yeah, it could be
That's
a
the point.
coincidence. Like it could
More
be
luck
like,
than wisdom, let's say.
yeah, but we have a very specific way to judge this, so we will be taking into account the volatility of the bot. So it might be the one who has the highest percentage. For all we know, we have one of the one of the upcoming stars, one of the next Warren Buffett, but then for trading. Maybe he's there and we'll get 1,000% return.
The Warren Buffett algorithm. Maybe the Warren Buffett bot. That would be great. That would be great. Yeah. Well, so we have another question from one of our viewers. Again, thank you for being so active. And if you have any more questions, make sure to write them in the chat. Adosa.
It's a question about the Yuan coin. It is now very low, but do you think it will be big like Bitcoin?
I am not going to speculate on this one because it's quite a niche market. And from our perspective, I think the main thing to keep in mind is that what we want is volatility. Of course, a bullish direction is nice, but it's not necessarily important for the trading algorithms to have one very specific direction where everything is moving is, because we are trying to take advantage of the ups and downs.
Yeah.
We want to get in on lower prices than the rest does. We want to get out on the higher prices and then get in again.
Yeah.
So that's the way. Like,
Okay.
Talking about prices, by the way.
Oh yeah, are we that far into the conversation
time flies.
already?
Time
Okay,
flies when you're having fun. Yeah.
Okay, well, give us your prediction, Arthur, for the price of Bitcoin by the end of December 2021.
I think we have a very interesting environment coming up, especially with retail traders sitting at home. There's a lot of retail exposure to all markets. I think the main question is going to be is how strong are these markets going to influence each other? Like if the S&P takes a tank and drops 30%, how badly will that influence Bitcoin? Will it be used as a safe haven? As a general view, I think it's quite stable, quite a lot more stable than it was before because there's a lot more big money in it. So it would, in my eyes, either it fails, and fails, I see something below under 20K, I would consider that a fail, or it's going to skyrocket up and then, well, you can say 100, 150, 300, a million, it doesn't really matter. The market's going to take it wherever the hell it's going to take it. Because when it was $1 and it shot up to 100, I mean, that was also insane.
Still, this doesn't sound very much like a prediction.
No, it's not. And
you're just putting possibilities on the table.
Yes, because as I said, we're mostly interested in volatility. As long as it's moving, it's good for business.
So basically, it's either below 20 or above 100.
Basically.
That's what you're saying, right?
That would be my guess.
That would be your guess. Well, Arthur, thank you for answering a lot of questions from our viewers and being a guest here during Bots TV. Hopefully see you soon again. So why not, right? There's many questions surrounding the Bots League, and we're going to have the Bots League till the end of April. Yep. So we're definitely going to see you around. Thank you. Now, before we're going to wrap up the show, the second episode of Bots TV, Adosa.
Yeah, there were way more questions, of course, being asked today, but unfortunately we needed to wrap up. Thank you, Arthur, again for being here today, and good luck with the league. Now we're getting into the predictions.
Oh, it's not ready yet. I can hear it
it's
from
not ready yet,
the back. Yeah, no problem. I mean, in the meantime, while the people on the background are working very hard to make sure we have the graphic ready before, of course, the end of this episode, let's talk about what we've actually been talking about this episode. Starting with the news. Yet again, I can't like the news today of Elon Musk putting the hashtag Bitcoin in his Twitter description. Wall Street bets going crazy the past couple of days.
Incredible.
We spoke with Seth, we spoke with Johan, we spoke with Arthur just now. What are you going to take away from today?
What I liked very much is the sketch of the situation in Sweden that we got from Johan. It's always nice to find out about other countries, how they react to, all the new things that crypto is parachuting over us. And it's interesting to hear that also in Sweden there are rules and regulations that you have to abide by.
Yeah, I the question I wanted to ask Johan, which I'm going to ask you now, is that we heard that the central bank is currently developing a digital currency.
That's very interesting.
Do you believe in banks having a digital currency?
Well, yeah, I believe in banks having a digital currency, but I do not believe that this is competition for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Because even when a bank uses blockchain for its digital currency, it will still be fiat money. And that's the opposite of Bitcoin and other cryptos.
That's
So
what we
still-
not want, right?
That's right. That's right. So I don't think these central bank currencies will solve any problem that Bitcoin might solve, and I also think they don't solve any problem that fiat money has, because it still will be fiat money.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting discussion point. Hopefully, in a future episode, we can
And
go
we'll-
more
yeah.
in depth into central banks and banks across the world actually developing
right.
their own coins. Right?
We'll talk a lot about that in the future, I
Yeah,
guess.
most likely, most likely. Well, the graphic is ready, so let's go back to Adosa.
Yes. So starting off with last episode, we had Demian who said 20k plus. Hendrik said between 50k and 100k. Colin said above 100k. Seth said as well above 100k. Johan said again between 50 and 100k. And Arthur was thinking about 200k or plus 200. I'm sorry again. 20k or 100k. So in between them.
That's a lot of 100Ks. Here.
Yeah.
100k is turning
I was
out
like
to be-
100k, 100k. Sorry, I
lot of
was hanging in there.
repetition,
Yeah.
It's the sort of the standard. It's a figure that people like to mention. So we'll
It's a
find
nice
out
big
if
round number, right?
yes,
100K
and it's a
Bitcoin.
number where everybody would like Bitcoin to go, isn't it?
Yeah, then we would go from 20k December last year, no,
Yeah.
to 100k or even more.
That's
at the end of
times
this
5, and if you compare this to 2017, it's a very modest goal, actually.
year. Yeah,
right.
we will see where it goes.
Went
Right, Herbert?
times 20 back then.
Exactly. Well, Herbert, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your
You're welcome.
insights. And of course, next episode, you will be here again.
Absolutely.
As well as Adosa. Again, thank you for being here, sharing
Yes.
the news with us
Thank
as
you.
well. And during the next episode, of course, Adosa is going to share even more news, which will be in 2 weeks. So not next week. The next episode will be in 2 weeks. We like to thank you for watching during this second episode of Bots TV. I, of course, also like to thank the guests that we had. So Seth, Johan, we had Arthur as well as a guest in this episode, as well as, of course, Hendrik answering a couple of questions that were still remaining. Now, if you have any questions and they are not answered, we might, of course, answer them very soon in the next Bots TV episode, which again will be in 2 weeks. Thank you for watching and hopefully see you again in 2 weeks' time.